Three caveats and a confession before we begin. Number one, the title of this video was clickbait. Gotcha. Number two, I have never met Jack Kornfield. I have not read him widely. I have benefited from watching his videos on YouTube and listening to his audiobooks. Number three, there was a time when I could do a serviceable Jack Kornfield impersonation and bring a room of SoCal sitters into hysterics. That's not really a caveat, I just wanted to do that. And now for my confession. I cannot report with exact certitude what percentage of my motivation for this video comes from straight up envy at Jack Kornfield's considerable and deserved success as a Buddhist teacher in America, but I suspect it is not an insignificant number. Now let's begin. What do I mean by the, quote, Jack Kornfield problem? So before I get started, I want to let you know kind of where I'm coming from. I was on my hands and knees, scrubbing a room. Won't bore you with the details, but I got to do a certain bit of house cleaning in order to pay my bills, right? So I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing, and got my headphones on, and I'm listening to an interview with two people, and it's in a big auditorium setting, and there's lots of clapping and breathy pauses, that sort of thing. And the two people are Sam Altman, who I think is the CEO of OpenAI, which is the company owned by Microsoft that basically wrought Chat GPT, the artificial intelligence chatbot program you may have heard about, between Sam Altman and Jack Kornfield. And as they were talking, I can't quite describe why I got a little bit angry. Maybe it was because I was on my hands and knees cleaning dirt off a floor while these guys were talking about how the invention of artificial intelligence is going to make it so that a lot of people don't have to work very hard anymore and they can just sit around and meditate and spend time on creative projects. And I found myself thinking, how many times have we heard that promise that a technological advancement is going to mean we get to work less? I mean, wasn't this what Milton Friedman was telling us halfway through the last century? I'm pretty sure it was. Hi, Future Jack here from the editing booth. No, it was not Milton Friedman. It was actually John Maynard Keynes who talked about the 15-hour work week. Back to previous Jack and his rant. That great economist of the last century who won the Nobel Prize. He said, I can see a future where people are working like 15 hours a week. Well, that never came. We're working harder and harder and harder. And I was listening to Jack Kornfield interact with Sam Altman, who apparently is his meditation student. And I was watching Jack Kornfield softball questions, protect his student, and envelop the whole conversation in a kind of misty, vague haze of privileged Northern Californian Buddhist babble speak. And it kind of peeved me a little bit. So that's where I'm coming from today with this video. And it comes from a great deal of respect for this man whom, studied in Burma and was the real deal and brought Buddhism to this country in many ways. And his teacher in Burma, my understanding, told him, you go and you do it your way in that country and speak to them in a way that moves their hearts and calms their minds and brings some peace to that troubled but very vibrant country. And he did that along with his peers Sharon Salzberg and the great Joseph Goldstein, whom I could do a whole video about. Okay, so the three of them are really respectable, and I do deeply respect them. And I'm a gnat, dharmically, compared to those guys. But I do want to talk about all that being said, what I consider to be the Jack Kornfield problem. And I'm only using him. It could be anybody. It could be any number of these successful Northern California, well-heeled American Buddhists who, through their talent, skill, and insight over the years and over the decades, have begun to cultivate a certain proximity to wealth and power. And I do feel like that proximity to wealth and power and success exerts a gravitational pull on their point of view. That's the Jack Kornfield problem, in a nutshell. So let me give you a specific example of what I mean. So in a lot of his interviews, Sam Altman, who actually seems to be an incredibly thoughtful, incredibly considerate guy with a good meditation practice, seems to have a strong, conscious, and a very honest approach to the problems that his little baby, Chat GPT, might bring to the world. I've watched him in various interviews, and he's said, he's made a consistent kind of claim about why OpenAI released Chat GPT the way they did. He's basically said variations of the thesis that we put this out there so people could see where the technology is at. We want people to know the potentials of this technology. We want them to know the pitfalls of this technology so that we can all collectively come to a decision about how to regulate it, control it, and use it together, okay? And this is a claim that was mouthed by Jack Kornfield in this interview as well. Now, I think there was an opportunity here for Jack GPT, Jack Kornfield GPT, to give a prompt to Sam Altman. Like, for one thing, a question could be, hey, Sam and OpenAI, are you outsourcing the responsibility for this technology that you have released upon the world? Are you outsourcing responsibility for it to all of us? Like, is that the sleight of hand that's going on here? Rhetorically, were there no financial motives to release this product earlier? Okay, OpenAI is the undisputed world AI champion right now. So they added, I'll probably get the numbers wrong, it was like 150 million users in like a month or 2 weeks or something. Maybe it was 180, I think it was 150 million in 2 weeks, okay? I'm too angry to go Google it. It was something like that, right? That's fantastic. Like, it took Instagram something like 2 or 3 years to get this many. So it is literally one of the most successful rollouts of a technology. It's probably the most successful rollout of a technology in human history. Chat GPT or OpenAI, which owns Chat GPT, is like valued at, I think it's like $29 billion right now. Okay, the king of computing, Bill Gates, who owns Microsoft, which owns or controls OpenAI. It's actually not entirely clear to me how this works. Like, OpenAI began as a nonprofit that Elon Musk was involved in. He actually tweeted about this because he and others were concerned that one company like Alphabet, which owns Google, gets very complicated, doesn't it? These Byzantine systems of flipping power, right? Gets very complicated. So in any event, Musk and others were worried that Google was getting too powerful and too much of a monopoly in the artificial intelligence industry. And so they started OpenAI as a nonprofit. Once OpenAI looked like it was becoming potentially pretty profitable, something happened. Lawyers waved their magic wands. Microsoft came in and infused it with $10 billion or some number, and suddenly Microsoft sort of controls OpenAI. So it's a nonprofit, but it's not a nonprofit. You know, in any event, OpenAI is going to bring a large amount of money into Bill Gates's and Microsoft's coffers, consolidating power within the already monopolistic tech industry far more into one company's hands, literally almost one individual's hands. And as I said, a lot of this is because OpenAI got there first. OpenAI got there first. Like, they got there first. They rolled out their technology first. They hit the ground running. They shipped a product that works, and they got there first. And Sam Altman came out of the gates saying, we did this, not of, he doesn't say this, but not of course to get market dominance that is going to be hard for anybody else to catch up to. Already Chat GPT, we're at Chat GPT 3.5, we're coming to Chat GPT 4. Chat GPT 4 is apparently mind-blowing, right? That's going to be released soon. Good luck, Alphabet and Google. Good luck, Facebook, catching up with that, right? But you know, and I don't disagree, I don't question Sam Altman's motives. He's also a guy that is clearly has a close proximity to wealth and power. That exerts a gravitational pull on your point of view and causes your tongue to move a certain way and pull certain words out of your mouth, right? That's what I'm trying to get at here. So my point is that Jack Kornfield had an opportunity to pause and to ask about money, about market dominance, to ask about the power that comes with just how much monopolistic control this one company will have over this massive technology, and how rich that company will become and how rich the people in it will become. So I'm not begrudging anyone their dollars, their Benjamins. I'm just saying, you know, it's the elephant in the room in a moment like this, when you've got a Buddhist teacher sitting there with a king, a captain of industry, right? And it's like, isn't he going to ask the question that everybody's kind of wondering? Like, how are you going to regulate yourselves? You keep talking about the alignment problem in artificial technology. Like, how are we going to align AI with human values? Well, I'm not even sure these corporations like Microsoft or OpenAI are really aligned with human values. I mean, aren't they aligned with their own self-preservation and expand at nearly all costs imperative as American corporations, or whatever hybrid of corporation slash nonprofit OpenAI is? I feel like Jack GPT had the opportunity to prompt Sam Altman of OpenAI to speak a little bit openly about the company's finances, about the company's power structure, about what the company plans to do to make this technology more democratic, to have all of us have more of a say in it, to have maybe some sort of, well, imagine this, a co-op where we all get to own a little bit of Chat GPT. I don't know. But he blew it. He didn't ask the question. I'm not sure if that's all totally coherent. To be totally honest, I'm not going to edit it. I will make another video this week. I'll put it out there. It'll make up for this rant. Every once in a while, I just got to get up here and got to rant like this. I guess I got a lot of personal stuff involved in this. I see people in my life, especially young people, and they're in my family, who have gotten a little bit behind in the rat race. You know, had to be held back some years in school, and then you had to get homeschooled, and then, you know, they just got behind, and now suddenly they're in the stage in their life when they should be maybe saving money to get a house and building a family together, and different things that many different generations of Americans were able to do, and they're not even coming close to it. And not only that, they haven't gone to college, and so they don't have the right vocabulary. I mean, the gulf between the haves and the have-nots, it just seems to me, and the data supports this, is growing greater and greater and greater. And the power is being consolidated into fewer and fewer number of people's hands. And it seems to me If I had been in Jack Kornfield's shoes, I would have just asked Sam Altman questions, and I would not have criticized, I would not have attacked, I would have not have done anything. I respect Sam Altman. It's not his fault. Just like it's not Mark Zuckerberg's fault, really. It's not Jack Dorsey's fault, really, that we have a social media that is effectively life-threateningly threatened, I mean, I want to try, has attacked democracy in our country and the very notion of truth to the point where, we're living in a new era. I don't think we can trace it back to Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey. They're just kind of part of this system. This Moloch is what I've heard it termed as. Moloch is this ancient Jewish false god. And I don't know too much about it except that it's this great weird creature. And he's got a furnace at his belly. And there are drawers. And you open up a drawer and you put your baby in the drawer and you shut it and the baby burns. And that's your sacrifice to Moloch, right? And a lot of people who are sort of interested in creative brainstorming type solutions to the AI problem, if you want to call it that, or potential, if you want to call it that, because it's got a ton of potential. They're speaking to this idea of Moloch, right? And saying that Moloch is the god of the not worth it sacrifice. It's the god of success. It's the god that you offer your child to in order to be successful. You burn your child, you make a child sacrifice. Or it's the God that you offer your principles and your values to in order to be successful. It's the God that you offer your soul to be successful. It is, some have suggested, the reigning false god of the neoliberal or post-capitalistic society, a highly materialistic society, a society that's willing to take, the entire planet. It's willing to take the entire planet and sacrifice it for success in the current moment, for an exponentially, increasing market that keeps growing and expanding and growing and expanding and growing and expanding and never stopping, right? That's the god of Moloch. And it's everybody agrees that Moloch is we do not want this, but one person can stop it, right? So there's this moment in this video when Jack Kornfield says, well, I can see a world where he doesn't say this, but we can come up with a cage for Moloch or rules for Moloch or a way of stemming this Molochian impulse. And here's his suggestion. He's well, I can see, I don't want to do an imitation because I'm not going to be insulting, but he's I can see a world where we have a moderator like a Barack Obama, and then there's a council of elders who will get together and decide how we program this technology to best, serve the world. And I'm just thinking, God, it's the same people, the same neoliberal, fabulously wealthy, haves, elites, whatever you want to call it, programming this artificial intelligence? We don't need that. People need money. They need to share in the profits and they need to share in the actual decision making, right? We don't need the same group of unelected representatives, i.e. elites, deciding things behind closed glass doors in Silicon Valley. That's how we got Facebook. That's how we got Twitter. That's how we got the incentive model, engage and enrage, the Google AdWords based incentive model. The longer you are on a website, the longer you are engaging in Facebook, the longer you are scrolling on Twitter, the more you are engaged, the more money they make. And the thing that engages you is when you're angry and pissed off, like I am right now. So you're still watching, right? Enrage and engage, right? We don't need this same system of sort of ex-hippies who rolled into Silicon Valley with long-haired principals and Birkenstocks and pitched their crazy ideas to venture capitalist firms and became fabulously wealthy and now go to the same rooms even though they're balding, they've got the same long hair, deciding a bunch of things based on hippie principles, but still basically controlling the technology, controlling the companies that control the technology, and profiting obscenely, right? And none of us work any less, right? That's the bottom line. That's really what I want to get across. None of us are working any less. So my girlfriend uses Chat GPT at her work right now. And she says it's very helpful to her. But the bottom line is she's just had to learn how to use a new technology. And it's more work for her. She's asked to do more now because Chat GPT enables her to do so much more now. So now she's got to learn a new technology. Her actual creative work, thinking work, fulfilling work has been reduced drastically because ChatGPT can sort of compress a lot of that thinking, creating work. And she's kind of just sort of like in many instances editing, right? But she ain't getting paid any more, and she ain't working any less. And I promise you that's going to be the case for like 99.999999999% of everybody who winds up using Chat GPT, no matter how no matter what Jack Kornfield and Sam Altman say on their big stage in front of their rapturous audience about the future of humanity being elevated by this technology and how everybody's going to have a lot more time, as Jack Kornfield said in this video, perhaps, to do spiritual work. I mean, that was a lot of the running theme that Jack Kornfield brought to this conversation. And I think that's wonderful that he did that. And I'm angry because I'm also flipping hopeful, right? I mean, I'm hopeful that maybe the capitalistic system, and I hate using the term, the capitalist system, the highly materialistic system, the Molochian Ouroboros-like beast that keeps swallowing its own tail, that is this materialistic world that we live in, where we have plastics. I got plastics, I got metal, I got inks, I got dyes in this. They got flowers here that have inks and dyes. I've got plastic all over this room. And I'm just one guy who was a monk. How can we keep this system going over the years, And I'm hopeful that something like Chat GPT can help us, right? I just didn't appreciate the convivial, very protective and kind of self-important air that was brought to this conversation between a tech maven and a spiritual teacher. And I kind of miss a vibe that I was never a part of in America, which was when Buddhism first came here, brought by luminaries like Jack Kornfield, when it really hit our shores. There was a rebellious attitude. There was an attitude of doing it your own way, separating from the corrupt values of 50s bourgeois society and setting up something on your own that has some integrity and has some authenticity, right? And these guys did that, and Jack Kornfield's 78 years old, and God bless him, really, God bless him. He shouldn't be the subject to my blathering, spitting criticism or anybody's, because he's done his work. But nonetheless, decade after decade after decade, these guys have kind of become the voice of conventional morality or conventional society, the kind of mindfulness guru that offers you peace of mind and a way of fitting into society and a way of making peace with the world around you. I mean, that seems to be a lot of what this Silicon Valley infused mindfulness stuff is all about, if you want my opinion. It's not about challenging the status quo ever or asking uncomfortable questions ever. And you just don't do that when you have consistent, long-term proximity to wealth and power. You just don't do it because it exerts a gravitational pull on your point of view. I'll bring this curmudgeonly rant to a close now with a little bit of a story. I remember my teacher, he had this weird relationship to powerful people. Like, this is a complicated point because my teacher was an alpha dog, and that was really problematic in our community and for a lot of us personally. Like, he just kind of had to be the king of the hill, right? So I'm saying that as a preface for what I'm about to tell you so that it doesn't sound like I'm offering my teacher, as always, as the end-all be-all of Buddhist teachers, because he wasn't. I've criticized him openly and publicly, repeatedly on this channel and in my book, Single White Monk, so I'm very honest about his shortcomings. But I gotta say, and I'm not saying that this is what you should do and that this is the answer, but I really respected this about him. So people came sniffing around, and sometimes they were very, very, very successful people. Billionaires, millionaires, famous people, rock and roll stars, and Roshi never kissed their ass ever. He always gave them a harder time. I remember one time there was this guy who was he was huge in Hollywood. So he ran, let's say it's Warner Brothers. I don't want this guy coming after me because he was a bitch, okay? He was the biggest asshole on the planet, I have heard from people who worked with him, right? So I don't want this dude knocking on my door with his Hollywood mafia. In any event, this guy who worked at Fox, or was it Warner Brothers or MGM, he ran the studio, and he was fabulously wealthy. And for some reason, he took a shine to our style of practice. And one time he invited us all out to his palace, basically in Beverly Hills, and he turned it over to us monks, and we had the best time. He had a pool. He just disappeared, and he let us stay there. He had a pool. He has a big TV. He had a stocked fridge. He had all these bedrooms with all these clean sheets that didn't have those Zen Center blood stains or snot marks on them, okay? He had mattresses that didn't have the dead skin of 1400 Zen students going back to 1972, poofing up in clouds every time you laid down to try and sleep. It was a clean house. It was a beautiful house. It was a rich house with a swimming pool, and we drank his wine, and we watched his videos, and we had a great time. And the next day, my teacher came, and this millionaire came as well. And they sat down in the kitchen, and they had a long conversation. And, it was clear to me that this relationship wasn't going to last, because Roshi started asking him some questions about his wealth, about his life, about his, just different things. And he was poking the guy. It was preposterously uncomfortable, phenomenally uncomfortable, because Roshi wasn't playing the game. And the game was you don't have to kiss his ass, but just don't openly challenge him and insult him, okay? Because the guy could pay our bills for years and years and years, and then me, I was the shika, the head monk at the time, I won't have to sit there and beg and beg and beg for donations, for $5 donations, $10 donations. I won't have to spend 20, 30 hours of my life every year composing and sending out mailing, doing a mailing for our fundraising. So all of our poor Zen students can send $10, $20, and then that entitles them to complain to my face for the next year about what they don't like about what I'm doing as the head monk. Can we skip all that? You just maybe not insult this millionaire. We get a big donation from him, and we join the ranks of, moderately successful Buddhist communities in America. Could we do? No. He said some slightly challenging things. It shouldn't have been challenging to the guy, but the guy had an ego. And Roshi went there. And of course, the guy went on and found another teacher. This happened over and over and over the years. I could give you a list of world-famous rock stars, as well as America, if not world-famous spiritual teachers, that he just drove away because he insulted their power and privilege, or challenged it, or something like that, And again, my teacher was not perfect, and he had his own power and his own privilege, but I just want to close by saying I respected that. And I also want to close by saying that I was rewatching some videos with Jack Kornfield, and he really is a sort of a legend, a titan, a gift to American Buddhism. And from these videos that I was watching, it seems like he's gotten pretty old. And it seemed to me like he was almost shaking a little bit in the video, and his voice was a little bit shaky. So I impugn him in no way, shape, or form. I just want to throw out there what I talked about today. I miss what I never had, which was a Buddhism that is not in bed with corporations and is not desperate for approval from mainstream America or from the elites in America or from people with power and privilege and money. Because I think there was a time when Buddhism first came to this country when there was when it was willing to be apart from money, power, and privilege, and was even willing to pay that price. And that willingness to be apart nurtured and grew authentic, homegrown Buddhist traditions, one of which is the Insight Meditation Society, which Jack Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, and Joseph Goldstein founded. So maybe there's some new young whippersnapper Buddhists out there who are going to be able to take a step back from, I don't know, companies like OpenAI and the rest of mainstream America, and perhaps Buddhist America that maybe seeks a seat at the table, and go off into the woods and build huts of their own and sew their own meditation cushions and show us all what the heck it's about, because I believe in you in this future world of AI generated whatever it is we're heading for. Anyways, I'm on Patreon after all that. You can go there and support me on Patreon. There's a link in the to Patreon in the description below. There's also a PayPal donation button. Hit subscribe, hit the like, feed the algorithm Moloch to support this video, and stay cool and be good and resist.